Hey there, friends. No special intro for this one, just me pleading with you. If you happen to have a glitch in the Matrix experience that you haven't sent into the channel, please do consider doing so. As it is right now, I am good through December 29th, so most of the month, but any stories that are sent in now for glitch will either be the last glitch video of the month or first of the year. So, if you have one that you've been holding on to, please do consider sending it in. And of course, thank you. I discovered your channel and spent hours upon hours since then listening to all of the experiences. I've had lots of weird stuff happening to me during my 42 years of existence. I wrote you 3, which I think match your channel and its demographic audience the best. Thank you. This happened to me in the early 90s, when I was 7 or 8 years old. We had taken a school trip with teachers, parents, and siblings to around 4 hours drive away to a small East Finnish town called Savonlinna. It is famous for its 15th century Olavinlinna castle, which we visited too. There's a story about how a young maiden lost her life in the castle. She fell in love with an enemy Russian soldier. They met in secrecy often, and one day the soldier asked if they could meet inside the castle at nighttime. The young woman agreed. When the night fell, she went to let the man in, but instead of just him, there was a whole army waiting for her. She had been fooled. The men attacked the castle, but they couldn't invade it, and were driven off. The woman, who had no part in this, was sentenced to death for treason. She was buried alive in a wall of the castle's inner yard. As a sign of her innocence, a rowan tree grew out of her heart and through the wall. This is a story a guide will always tell you when you take a tour in the castle. We were standing in the inner yard when the guide told the story. Next to me was a couple who I didn't know. I heard them saying, "Wow, look at that, it's so high." I took a look at what they were looking at, and there was a small yet very green and lively looking rowan tree. It was growing out from the wall, really high up from the ground. I kept looking at this sight and pondering with my little child's brain, how on earth could a rowan tree grow there? How did the seed get there? Where does it get all of its nutrition and water from? It was really bizarre. I inspected it for many minutes, together with this couple. Now, fast forward, and I'm 17. My best friend is now living in Savonlinna. I went to visit her, and together we went to the Olavinlinna castle. I told her that I wished to see the rowan tree again. There was a tour group waiting to go, so we decided to head inside the castle first so that we wouldn't be in the way of the tour group. We circled around the castle, but I didn't see the rowan tree. I pondered if it had fallen down or had been cut down. We caught up with the tour group on top of one of the watchtowers. The tower guide was telling her group the story of the innocent maiden, so my friend and I stayed a bit further away and eavesdropped on the story. The guide told that there had been a rowan tree growing on one of the castle walls, but it had come down in a bad storm in the 1950s. I told my friend, that can't be true. I saw it in the early 90s. When I later did research of the castle's rowan tree, it had indeed come down in the 1950s during an especially heavy storm. The castle's official webpage says it too. Not only that, but there was a photo of said rowan tree that I discovered, and it was nothing like what I had seen. It was a very tiny, thin, wimpy-looking little thing. On top of that, it grew in the wrong spot, near a castle's roof's edge. The rowan tree that I and the unknown couple saw in the 90s was a very lush, healthy green tree, and grew around the midway of the castle's inner yard's wall. What's especially mysterious about this is that when I spoke with another friend about this mysterious tree, she also said that she had seen it in the 90s, in the exact same spot where I saw it. there are no records of any other rowan trees, or any other tree growing out from the castle's wall, except the one that was photographed, which had come down in the 50s. And that one wasn't the one that I saw. I have lived in Texas for about 6 months now. Me and my family moved down here from Washington State due to my husband's work. That being said, anyone from Texas knows the roads are not the most smooth and need a lot of work done to them. On the day this happened, I had a doctor's appointment that I was running late to, so I took a shortcut, hoping I would get there faster. I happened to get stuck behind a large truck carrying a lot of rocks. One of the rocks flew out and cracked my windshield. I was very upset knowing that I would have to replace it because it's quite costly. After my doctor appointment, I went home and went in for the day. The next morning, I woke up to take my 2 kids to school, and when I got into my car, the entire crack was gone. I mean, not a scratch. My husband could not have fixed it himself because we can't replace it ourselves. We would have to take it to Chevrolet to even get a repair done due to it having special sensors. To this day, I have no idea what happened, and it continues to bother me all the way to this day. Thank you for reading my story, and I really hope you are enjoying your new house, Raven. Thank you very much. Hey, Raven. First off, I just want to say thank you. I love your channel, and I work the graveyard shift. Your videos really keep me going through the night. It's an absolute pleasure, my friend. Now, this might sound wild, but I believe I experienced what you would call a glitch in the Matrix. I'll leave it up to you and the viewers to decide, but I know I'm not crazy, and I wasn't imagining this. I remember celebrating New Year's 1993 twice. I know that sounds impossible, but hear me out. Back in 1993, I was in 5th grade. Excited because in about 6 months, I'd be moving on to the 6th grade. I remember New Year's Eve clearly. But what's strange is that when the next year came, which should have been 1994, everyone was celebrating and saying Happy New Year 1993. Like time had gone backwards. It was like we relived that year all over again, but nobody else seemed to notice. I remember looking at my school papers and homework and seeing the year written as 1993 again. And I remember thinking to myself, didn't we just finish 1993? It's something that has stayed in my mind for decades. It wasn't confusion, and it wasn't a dream. I remember it as clearly as anything else from my childhood. So, you tell me what you think, and once again, thank you for everything you do. Unfortunately, my take would be entirely worthless on this one, Dan. I was born in 91, so I would have been 2. I have no memories of this, but still a bizarre situation and occurrence for sure. I grew up as a weird kid who was obsessed by werewolves at the age of 6. Trying to conjure aliens to appear above my home at the age of 9, and who pondered the possibilities of parallel universes at the age of 12. Long before the internet existed, and the only way to get information was to find a way to the library and read. Of course, the next natural step on this trajectory was to get into divination. I made my first runes at the age of 16 from a thin alder branch. Just thick enough for me to be able to get round, flat runes out of them, and draw, with a marker, each rune symbol carefully on a piece of paper, and then glue them to the alder pieces. Since my first runes, I've gotten into oracle cards, tarot and divination by amulets, postcards, even coins. I partially earned my living with divination orders when I was studying, and I'm still a part-time oracle, for lack of a better word, because I don't feel that a medium or a psychic really fits me as a description. However, if you want to label me, I can say that I'm used to all kinds of weird occurrences happening and know the gimmicks of the spirit world inside out, from poltergeists to possessions and from past lives to astral traveling. But this one event in my life took even me by surprise. My apartment is a small studio apartment, enough to fit in a bed, a sofa, and a living room table, which altogether take up half of the living space. My bed is positioned to the right-hand side from the sofa and the living room table. My sofa and the table work as my working space for all of my needs. I write, get letters and postcards ready, eat, draw, design, sort items, and organize my sticker collection, study, talk with online friends, plan and do all work tasks, including those times when I'm filling my clients' divination orders. Pretty much everything that happens in my life outside sleeping happens at this spot. The divination process itself is simple. I introduce the client to the spiritual world, tell what they want to know, and then shuffle decks until the reading is done. Unlike many readers, my way of working with the decks is what I call a freestyle. I shuffle and let the cards fly out from the deck on their own. Because of this method, sometimes some rogue cards fly out and go hiding underneath the table or the sofa without me noticing them. I usually spot them the next day at the latest, albeit sometimes a week has passed when I have found a lonely card hiding on the floor. If there are multiple rogue cards, they're always scattered haphazardly here and there. Sideways, upside down, turned up, turned facing down on the floor, on top of each other, and so on. I had a really busy day on this particular day when the incident happened. It was mid-July 2024. I had been working with the client orders for hours because I had a special July sale on my online store and reading orders were pouring in. I had been using almost all of my decks to answer various questions and to give assistance to people when they wanted to know something about themselves, or what decision would be the best one in their case. One client particularly had a question about their love life, the most popular question of all time. So for this client's case, I used an oracle card deck specifically meant for love-related inquiries. It is a pink deck with romantic paintings of couples, often accompanied with cherubs, and underneath every painting is a word for the card and a short description for the card's topic, such as passion, allow your heart and soul to sing with joy. This particular deck was a new one in my ever-growing deck collection. I had gotten it as a Christmas present for my sister last year, so I had not used it as much yet. It was a little wild one, often making cards fly all over the place while shuffling and throwing the cards around with such force that I had to pick up cards meant for a client's reading off from the floor. Trust me when I say that every single deck has a personality of its own, and they don't always come along with you or are in a mood for work. Ask this from anyone who deals with divination and they will tell you the same. When I finally got all the client cases done for that day, I gathered my cards, put them back in their cases, and placed them in their own storage space in my drawer, where I store all other spiritually related items too, like sage, crystals and stones, runes, amulets, all the stuff. I was happy that the day had been so productive, and I wished especially that the client with the love-related question had gotten what they asked for, especially when the deck I used was still new to me, and I was still getting familiar with it. I continued my day normally and went to bed when the day was over, as usual. The next afternoon, while sitting on the sofa, I got an urge to go to a grocery store which is located half a mile from my home. Strange, I thought, because I had no particular need for anything from the store, but I decided to follow this inner calling anyway. If nothing else, I could always stock up on something I will use anyway. And beside that, I could get a little walk outside. I got up from the sofa, getting ready to leave when I sat back down. this time on the edge of my bed, thinking, what should I actually stock up on from the supermarket? Something big and heavy, or something small and easy to carry? Do I need to take a backpack with me? Or will just a regular shopping tote bag be sufficient? Right then, I noticed something on the floor. Underneath the sofa, just at the edge, which I can only see if I sit on my bed on that exact spot where I was sitting, there were cards. 2 of them. From the romance oracle deck I was using yesterday for the client's reading. Like I said, finding rogue cards which have somehow slipped past me while shuffling is nothing unusual. But these cards weren't normal. Instead of me discovering these rogue cards from their usual spot where they typically fly, these 2 cards were on a spot where cards can't fall. Besides that, they weren't haphazardly spread here and there. They were aligned with one another, neatly placed side by side, their picture side upside and all cards in an upright position facing toward me. To add the cherry on top of this weird thing that I was seeing, a sticker of a cat was placed on top of one of the cards. Not any sticker of any cat. This was an image of a cat who was in love. This cute Japanese sticker, which was left over from my sticker collection, its paws pressed against its chest, with a small smile and a heart dangling above its head. I couldn't believe my eyes. First of all, I had not noticed missing cards the day before when I used the deck. Albeit possible, I had missed 2 cards and they had fallen while shuffling. When I shuffle the decks, the cards fall in front of me, not to my sides. These cards were on the right-hand side where I sit on the sofa while working, and for the cards to even fall that far, they would need to fly over the sofa's handrest and then curve back underneath the sofa. I had never had any cards fly over the handrest. Second, these cards were from the romance deck, and the cat sticker was also a love-related sticker. Too suspicious to be a mere coincidence. Third, I had no memory of the last time I had seen that leftover cat sticker. I remember that I sorted that specific sticker box months ago, maybe even last year in November. And since the box contained 5 pieces of each design, I only took 1 of each to my collection, and I placed the rest in their box. I have no idea where the sticker came from and how this sticker had actually found its way on top of the cards. I was so surprised that I actually went for my phone and took a picture of this all before touching the cards. After documenting what I was seeing, I reached for the cards. This was clearly a message for me, even when I had not asked for any messages or signs. This had to be an important one, since there were 2 cards and a sticker placed on one, like emphasizing, hey, you pay attention to this. When I reached out for the cards, I realized something shocking. There weren't 2 cards. There were 5. This was not just 2 cards, but 2 piles of cards, placed so precisely on top of one another that the cards underneath the top card were not visible. Absolutely impossible for rogue cards. Someone had to take my cards and place them in 2 neat piles next to one another with an upright position facing me, then snuggle the cards underneath my sofa at an exact spot which is only visible from one spot on my bed. The spot where I typically sit when getting ready to leave the house. Then, look for a sticker, choose a cat in love sticker from my hundreds of leftover stickers to match a romance oracle card deck, and then put that sticker on top of the cards. I spread the cards on the floor in front of me. It spelled new love, attraction, romantic feelings, honeymoon, and release your ex. The 2 cards on top of the piles read, the time has come to clear your energy and enjoy the bliss of holiday time together. The rest, the other 3 cards underneath these 2 said, your feelings are real and worth exploring. You attract romantic love by enjoying this moment fully, and a new person has stirred your romantic feelings. The thing is that I have been single my whole adult life. I have never been married when people of my age are often in their second marriage or have been married at least once. I had a boyfriend when I was young, but he was an immature jerk. I have no crushes on anyone either, so I took the message as, get ready, someone's arriving and you'll meet him the easiest by enjoying your life. The past experiences are now the past. After I discovered the cards with the sticker from the floor, I never put the cards back in their case with the other cards. They're in a separate space in my drawer. The cat sticker is also a special item for me now. I have saved it, placing it near my home altar to remind me to stay positive and happy. While I consider myself very knowledgeable regarding anything paranormal, I still don't know who sent me this message. I know it must have happened when I slept, and no, I don't sleepwalk, never have, although apparently I mutter in my sleep and toss and turn a lot. But who had their fingers on my cards? If I had to guess, I would point my finger at my belated grandmother from my father's side, but it can as well be my spirit guide Ian. Or someone else from this family line who I don't know, like a great-great-aunt. A past life loved one who has not been born but resides in the afterlife as a spirit? Or maybe just a spirit passing by. I'm used to getting signs and synchronicity like numbers, items, words, songs, dreams, images, videos. Once, I got 3 different colored roses lying on a street that I have taken the last 10 years without ever seeing any flowers. But this is a one-of-a-kind experience. I'm still single a year after receiving this message, so I just hope that I'm following its guidance correctly. Hey Raven, this is my first submission and I don't know if you'll use it, but I'm still excited either way to share it with you. It's definitely not the most abnormal glitch, but I still feel it was genuine. I work at an ice cream store in a small town in Oklahoma. I guess I better preface that I also have ADHD, and I take Adderall to help me with my daily functions. I'm not necessarily a complete mess, but it's more of a controlled chaos situation with me. I can sympathize with that. My day-to-day is chaotic, but there's also a touch of normality, so I do have my fingers on the pulse, if that makes sense. I arrive late to work every day, but it's consistent. Now that the introduction is over, this story is just about a set of lost keys, but the night that it happened didn't make sense. I drive a 2019 Jeep Wrangler, and although not the newest, it still requires the key fob to be within whatever proximity to the vehicle to be started. Normally, I keep my keys in my apron pocket, or sometimes throw them in front of one of the 3 registers at the store. But they're always visible, because as the saying goes with ADHD, out of sight, out of mind. If not in my apron or a register, they're on top of a shelf above our prep sink. But again, still visible. When I took my break, I went to my dad's house to get a plate of some leftover Mexican food that I had made the day prior. But I took it back to the parking lot at my job to have 10 minutes of peace and gluttony. I keep a small plastic bag in my car for trash, and once I finished my food, I tossed the paper plate in the bag and grabbed it to trash inside the store. Filled with old receipts and other garbage, it came back from break with me and went into the first trash can to the right of the side entrance. Another couple of hours pass and it's finally time to go, so without much thought, I head to shop our little market. We get a discount and I needed paper towels and blueberries, and then exit the store assuming my keys are somewhere on me. I immediately questioned if I even locked my door earlier for whatever reason, and then realized I didn't, and I started to look for my key set. I guess, luckily, my door was unlocked, albeit out of character, but I began to look for my keys. They weren't anywhere. I tried to start my Jeep thinking maybe they were somewhere inside the vehicle, but got the alert that they weren't detected, so I couldn't make a move. I just chalked it up to me being an idiot and not paying attention, so I walked back inside and casually looked around my normal drop-off spots. Nothing. I then thought maybe I was really not paying attention, and I tossed them into the little plastic trash bag I brought in the store and threw them there. I looked inside the trash can, and luckily we were short-staffed, so the trash hadn't been thrown or changed yet, and I saw my black little bag. I checked it out, and I didn't see anything beside the paper plate of food I had eaten earlier and miscellaneous trash I had tossed in earlier. I then started to freak out, because it was 11 p.m. and now I realized my keys were actually missing, and I had to snap into it. I walked through my routine and couldn't find a thing. I went back to my car, and after searching for a few minutes and trying to restart my Jeep, with fail, recruited a fellow employee to help me. She was in the parking lot but came to my aid immediately. I looked in the trash can again, the same one with my bag of garbage and plate of Mexican food, and I didn't see anything. I even picked up the entire trash can and shook it to see if I could hear the jingling of the keys, but nothing. The trash can was full and everything was visible, so I know I didn't miss anything. I then started checking ridiculous spots like lockers that I know I didn't use, areas I know I didn't even attend, and places that would be insane for my keys to end up in. I decided that I needed to call my store manager to review the cameras just to see what I did when I came back from my break. Fortunately, the other manager on duty had a decent amount of knowledge on how to work the cameras, so she started to help. I told her that I had come back from my break at 9:05, and while she was trying to work our wonky and dated keyboard, I was going to go, for whatever reason, back to my Jeep just in case and check the trash can again. I went back to my car and checked everywhere, and tried to start it again, but again, failure. I even checked underneath but couldn't find a thing. I walked back in and pulled out the trash can for the third time. I saw my plate of food, my trash, but continued to look and dig. Then, at the very bottom, I saw my set of keys and freaked out. I ran into the kitchen and yelled, "I found them!" I went to the office to thank my manager just as she found the footage of the time I came back from my break, and even showed me throwing away my little trash bag. I was so happy to leave work that it didn't dawn on me until later that I should have found them the first time around. I dug thoroughly twice before finding them. I had 3 people helping me search. I don't know why I looked in the same place multiple times, but I swear I thought about those stories where you ask the universe to return something and you get a response. Did I really miss my keys in the trash? Or did the universe know that my manager was about to see the footage and there was nothing it could do to prevent the reality? Maybe this isn't a glitch. Maybe it's silliness, but this key set was not there. So why all of a sudden, when multiple people were going to view recorded reality, did I find them? I don't remember when it all started, but whenever I remember a deja vu thing, I sometimes wouldn't realize that I've experienced that scene until a few minutes later, instead of a few seconds. Then I can see every version of me seeing and experiencing the same exact thing. Kind of like where there is a mirror in front of you and behind you, and you see yourself in the mirror infinitely. I've noticed that I've already lived this section of my timeline, and I'm reliving it until the next deja vu loop things occur. Basically a time loop within its own time loop. This is very hard to explain. I hope you can understand that. Even though I'm experiencing this, I still live through that past of the timeline as it's supposed to happen. Meaning that all the experiences of deja vu makes all of my actions, thoughts, and feelings inevitable. I can't change the past at all. So basically I know I'm in the past, but I still live through the timeline as it's written out for me. I don't realize my brain is doing this until after it happens, so I have no control over when it'll happen again. It just happens randomly. Or, in other words, the timeline knows when it will happen because it's inevitable. However, I have no clue when it does. You can basically say that I'm living my normal life like everyone else. But in my consciousness, I'm living my life longer since I keep jumping back to the past without realizing it as a time loop within the time loop. I understand if some people don't believe this, but this has been happening for years. I always just brush it off as normal. I know one day in the far future, the answer to all of the deja vu time loops that I'm experiencing will be explained in some sort of way. This also gave me the understanding that our mind is a time machine. Sorry if this is long, but I wanted people to hear this story. I understand if people don't believe it, but this is a true story. And if you guys still think it's just normal deja vu, like everyone else has said when I told a few family members, then you're wrong. It's not deja vu. I know it isn't. I hope by writing this, someone who listens to this story will have a similar experience to mine, and that I'm not the only one who has experienced this non-deja vu thing. And thank you, Raven, for reading my story. Hi, Raven. If you're reading this, thank you. I really appreciate all the videos you make. I appreciate you watching and listening, my friend. This happened last summer. I was out with my friend going to grab some food. We ate our food and went on our way home. On the way, we came across a street. My friend was walking in front of me and saw a puddle of water. It was a rainy day and the rain had stopped a few minutes before we went to the restaurant. And the weird thing is, it was only raining on that specific puddle of water. There wasn't a single cloud in the sky, nor above the puddle. There was no source of the drizzle. There was no pipe or anything above it at all. It was just unexplainable. How is it even possible for some water to drizzle into a small puddle with no source? We were very confused, and we even joked about how it was a glitch in the Matrix. I tried looking it up and got no results. Has anyone seen or encountered anything similar? If so, please share it in the comments so I can possibly make sense of this somehow. So that, my friends, was this week's collection of Glitch in the Matrix stories. Stories about the weird, bizarre, and strange happenings that exist in our reality. Which is a thing I typically say, because it's the easiest way to describe these stories. How would you describe them? If you have an alternative, please let me know, because I don't have any clue how else to call them. Like, they're paranormal, or not really paranormal, they're supernatural stories that occur where strange things happen. Some of them may have logical explanations, some of them don't. So, I don't know. Anyway, you guys like them, so I keep doing them. I like them too, but I think you guys like them more because you keep watching them, so. If you do, in fact, like the Glitch in the Matrix stories, please do hit that like button on the video. If you're new to the channel and enjoy what you heard, please consider subscribing. If you want early access to content like this and other things, depending on how you sign up and which one you sign up for, you can hit the join button down below the video for channel memberships, or you can go to the Patreon website, patreon.com/astheravendreams, I believe. Yep, just did a thing I don't normally do, paused the outro recording and went to go check. It is, in fact, patreon.com/astheravendreams. If you sign up there, you get other things. There are other tiers that get you extra stuff. You can also go to my website, astheravendreams.com, where you can submit your stories, which I do need, if you have them. You can also read stories I've written, fiction stories, find info about my book, find all my social media platforms, and find all the places where you can listen to the podcast in long format, or don't. Your choice. Completely your choice. Of course, I appreciate it if you guys do that stuff, but I never expected, so. The other thing we do on the Glitch video is the word of the week. Last week, the word of the week was one that I didn't think many people would be doing. Hang on. Last week's word of the week was, how did I forget? Incipient. I don't know how I forgot that already. It was incipient. And on the screen right now, and several moments prior to now, is the collection of all the people who used the word incipient in a comment, and as such, being featured here. Incipient is one of those words you don't really hear much, or say much, or even read much. But it's a good word, and I was told by at least one person that I added a new word to their repertoire, so there you go. I did my job. Thank you to every single one of you who used the word incipient in a story, in a comment, or go use it in a story too if you have one and want to use it. That'd be cool. Anyways, in a comment, you guys all helped the video do better, so thank you again. Moving on to this week's word of the week. This week, the word is not easy to use either, but maybe a little easier than incipient in my opinion. The word of the week this week, I am a mess, is winsome. W-I-N-S-O-M-E. It's like handsome, but winsome. Now, it's also like handsome in that it has a positive definition, which is generally pleasing and engaging, often because of a childlike charm and innocence, or cheerful and lighthearted. So if someone is winsome, they are pleasing and engaging, cheerful and lighthearted, often because of childlike charm, but it doesn't have to be childlike charm. So I like to believe that I am a winsome person, for the most part. I am engaging. I engage with chat and conversations during my live streams. I engage with comments if I can. And I like to be cheerful and lighthearted because I like to spread the positivity. However, I'm not always a winsome person, but I try. That's my example. Don't use it on your comment, please. All that said, friends, hope you're having a beautiful week so far. Hope I see you again here soon. But until then, remember that you are loved, you are valid, you are important, you are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Until next time, my friends, much love, and sleep well.